working to build a powerhouse team in your construction company, then you already know that the contractors who are filling their roles are competing for the exact same workers who have probably been walking away from you. So today, I want to flip that around, because here's the part that nobody talks about. The good workers, they're not leaving construction. They may not even be in construction yet. They're just leaving or avoiding you. And I don't mean that as an attack. What I want you to view it as is a diagnosis. The industry needs 439,000 net new workers like last year. This year's higher. And it's going to continue to grow unless we do something about it. And the good ones, the ones who don't need to be babysat 12 hours a day, 5 days a week, the ones who you don't need to hold their hand, you don't need to wonder if they're going to be showing up on Monday morning. The ones who can actually do the work, those are the ones that have options. And they're choosing where they want to go. If they're not choosing you, it's because something about your company is telling them to keep walking. They don't even know your company exists, or someone else has a better culture that they want. So let me show you what I mean. When I was in high school, I won every football award I could possibly win in my senior year. So I'm going to just see if I can set these up so I can show you what that looks like. I'll just put it here. So I won every single award, including this is now my favorite award, but here we go. There we go. Oh, put that on. There we go. But including this award and this award, which are, I don't know if you can read that, but it says most valuable player. The thing about the MVP award is that in our league, at least, typically the MVP award almost always went to the quarterback. Like, they were always the MVP of the team. So here's the behind the scenes of these awards and winning all of these. Like, I took everything I could. The behind the scenes of these awards is that one of my closest friends was the quarterback. So you can kind of imagine how that looked when I show up and I'll win this award. I didn't know I was going to win it, but I win this award, and he didn't, and he was the quarterback. And all of a sudden, there was this resentment that built up, and he didn't really like me that much after that. And it damaged our relationship. And I remember feeling bad about winning, even though I'd worked my butt off to be the best on the team. Like, I kind of shrunk back. I didn't want to be as bold about my efforts because it had damaged the relationship between my good friend and I. And I stopped being as confident about my skills. Honestly, I kind of struggled to accept that I had won those awards. And I hid them for a long time. I hadn't shown anybody. Now, why am I telling you this on a channel about hiring? Just gonna put these over here. Actually, I'll just put this right here. There we go. Because a similar dynamic plays out in construction companies, in teams on construction, in construction companies almost every single day. A contractor promotes the worker who is above average. The rest of the crew feels ignored, like they've been hard done by because this guy got promoted. So they kind of get this resentment built up. The contractor gives more recognition to the guy that's showing up and doing what he's supposed to be doing, going above and beyond, and thinking that it will hopefully inspire the crew because they're like, man, like, come on, go and do this thing and you'll get this result, right? Like, that's what's going through his mind. However, the rest of the crew is already checked out because they felt unrecognized, or they had expectations that they should have won that recognition. And so through the lack of individual recognition, they won't and don't support the achievement of the person who has been promoted. And ultimately, that brings your A player down. And suddenly, your best guy is leaving because they found a better culture fit. And the introduction to your company culture starts with your hiring process. And that's what we're going to fix today. So I'm going to tell you 7 reasons that good workers won't work for you. And by the end of it, I want you to write in the comments which one you resonate with the most, which one you feel like is like, man, that's definitely the one for me, right? And tell me why. I'd love to hear your story, and who knows, it might be the inspiration for another video in the future, right? So, reason number one, you're hiring out of desperation rather than selection. This is a big one. And honestly, it's probably the one that I see the most often. When you post a job offer out of desperation, for example, your lead man quit, you just acquired a new contract that you need a whole bunch of bodies for that you don't have on your crew. You are about to lose a job because you're behind on schedule and you need to catch up somehow. You start to take anybody with a pulse. And you hire out of need, out of desperation. And the good workers can smell that from a mile away. And they run because they don't want to be in that kind of culture. And here's what happens. You're posting the job offer. You get some applicants. Then you spend the next couple weeks sifting through these resumes and then calling, setting up interviews, meeting with all these people, having the interviews, dealing with the no-shows, dealing with the reschedules, dealing with all the stuff that goes along with that. And then you eventually just hire because you're like, I need somebody here and I need them like tomorrow. And in the next 90 days, that person is like, this isn't a good fit. And you're like, look, you're reposting the job and you're repeating the process. That costs a lot of time, energy, and effort in your business. And by the way, like I was the guy that was the wrong fit at different times in my life. And when I was 12, I lost a job. I was working at a sawmill. And, well, I was working at a different sawmill for a month. And then on the very first day, I transferred to a different sawmill. On the very first day of the new sawmill, then I cut the end of my finger off. I don't know if you can see that, but that's it. So there's a little bit of a difference in the end of my finger. And I was too embarrassed to go back to the other sawmill and be like, hey, can I have my job back? So I just stayed home and let my finger heal. I didn't go back to the sawmill. I never went back to the sawmill. And that staying home feeling, that's what your good worker does when the culture fit is bad. When they feel small coming into the workplace, when they feel like they're not appreciated, not by you necessarily, not by the owner, but by the team. And that is part of the hiring process. And so then they don't fight for the job because why would they show up to a place where nobody likes them, where people resent them? And so eventually, all of a sudden, they're not showing up to work. They start staying home for 2 weeks. Then you're losing productivity. You're like, what did I do? I have to fire this guy. Obviously, I mean, you wouldn't wait 2 weeks to do that. And you never even know why they left. And so then you don't fix the internal problem, which was your hiring process. Getting the wrong people in the door at the beginning. Reason number two is you treat the first 90 days like a probationary period, and that's what it's called so often. It's like, oh, you're on probation until 90 days and then you get full benefits and all this stuff. But you treat it like a probationary period rather than an investment. Now, I hope that you get this because most contractors just hire someone and then hope that they're going to figure it out. Throw them into the mix with no onboarding, no training plan. There's no, here's how we do things here. It's just show up on Monday morning and get to work. And the data backs this up, by the way. According to retention research, the first 90 days are the highest risk period for any new hire. So if you don't have a structured onboarding process, you're setting them up to fail. And they're setting themselves up to leave. The good worker doesn't need you to hold their hand, but they do need to know what success looks like, what the standards are, what great looks like on your crew. And if you don't show them, then they'll assume that you don't care and they'll create their own standards and you're going to wonder why your work sucks. Reason number three, you promote your best worker into a role that they can't do or aren't qualified for. This one is a bit sneaky. And it's one of the easiest mistakes to make. And I have done this in the past. So this is where your best framer becomes your foreman, your best mechanic becomes your service manager, your best operator becomes the lead. And then 6 months later, they're struggling. They're making decisions they weren't trained to make. Your crew doesn't respect them because they were like, well, they were working beside me last week and now they're in a leadership position. They're telling me what to do. I don't need to listen to them, right? It's like, you're not my dad, right? and they're miserable because they're like, man, I can't figure this stupid thing out. Like, what's going on? And there's a reason for this, and it should be obvious, but it's not. Research shows that technical skills do not equal management skills. The things that made them great at their job, like speed, quality control, precision, problem solving, etc. Those are not necessarily the things that make them great at leading people. They don't have the interpersonal skills. So if you promote without training, and by the way, there's training of the person, but there's also training of your crew to be like, hey, this is the person that's going to be going up. and getting them prepared for that so that they're like, okay, this is the person that is the lead now. You start slowly working them into that and getting them used to it. If you promote without that training, you're setting them up to fail. Excuse me. And the good worker knows it. So they either turn down the promotion and you wonder why, or they take it and they burn out, and 6 months later they're going to find another job because they're like, I wasn't ready for this. And you wonder why they're struggling, and it's because they lacked training. Reason number 4, you don't pay what they're worth, and they know it. So here's a stat that should scare you a little bit. The majority of employees who quit cite not feeling valued as the top reason, and pay is the most visible sign of value. You don't have to be the highest paying construction company in town, but you do have to be competitive and you do have to be transparent. If your good workers find out that the new guy you just hired makes $2 more an hour and they're less experienced and less qualified and they've been with you for 30 seconds, then that good worker is going to be miserable. He's going to be mad about that. And it's not because of the $2, but it's because of what it signals to that worker. What it signals is we don't pay attention to what our team is worth here. We're just looking for new people. But here's the thing. The contractors who retain good workers are not necessarily the ones who pay the most. So I don't want you to think that that's the only way to do it. Because the contractors who retain good workers are the ones who pay fairly, communicate clearly, respect their employees, and they're consistent. I worked in this place once where they didn't really want us talking about our wages. In fact, it was a fireable offense. If you were to talk about your wages, you could get fired for it. And when I was there, at first when that was happening, it was pretty tense. We talked about wages anyways. We just had to be careful where we talked about them and who we talked about them with. So don't just think that just because you're commanding your crew not to talk about wages, they're not going to talk about wages. They are. And they're going to judge that based off whatever qualifications they have in their head. Where this all changed was we got this manager and he was like, you know what? I don't care if you talk to each other about wages. He's like, honestly, if I, as the manager, who partially has a major factor of the decision-making process of what you're going to get paid, if I can't back that up, then that's on me, not you. So you talk about your wages all you want. If someone's getting paid more and then someone else, and then someone who's getting paid less comes to me and is like, hey, why am I not getting paid? Well, I have to have a reason for that. And if I can't have a reason for that, well, then maybe they should be getting paid more. And maybe we need to reevaluate that. And so thank you for bringing our attention to this matter, because we weren't aware. And so when that happened, it was an interesting change in the dynamics. So number one, the relationship between the crew and the leadership reduced tension, because now we weren't scared about talking about wages. And then number two, the wage conversations actually pretty much diminished, because all of a sudden there was an open door to talk to the manager about our complaints rather than talking to each other. It became a better workplace. The relationship between the crew improved because they weren't competing with each other and hoping and feeling left out because the manager didn't recognize them or whatever. They just went to the manager and were like, hey, this is stupid. Why are we doing this, right? There was one guy that even went up and cussed him out for something. I can't remember what it was, but it was, and he didn't get fired. It was like, no, I get that you're frustrated. Now there is a correct way to do what you just did, but I want to hear your complaints, right? So the manager should be strong enough to actually back up the pay conversations. And if they're not, maybe there's a problem with your pay structure. People are going to talk anyway, so just make sure you have a good reason to back up why they're getting paid what they're paid. Expect a little bit of backlash. Be okay with it. Just because you're getting pushback doesn't mean that there's a problem. It just means you have to be willing to be like, okay, this is why this is happening. Speak to them like an adult. Have open communication, because that's always going to create a better environment. Reason number 5, you let the bad culture stay. One toxic crew member can poison your entire bench. And I think you know the type that I'm talking about. There's the guy that like earns the right to be a jerk, you know, he's been there forever. So he figures he can talk down to the new hires. He's gossiping all the time. He doesn't pull his weight, but somehow he never gets fired. You keep him because he looks reliable on paper. Or maybe you're like, man, I don't want to fire this guy. Like that's going to be a hassle, right? Well, I want you to look at this in a different perspective because he is the hassle, and so not firing him actually creates more hassle. I'm just saying, because here's what you're actually doing when you keep that guy that's toxic. You're telling everyone on your team that attitude, effort, and production are not what gets rewarded. All right, reason number 6, you don't give them a reason to stay. This one's kind of quiet, and it's going to cost you a lot over time if you don't fix it. Most contractors don't have a growth path. They don't have a what's next conversation. They don't have a way for a good worker to move up, to be promoted, to take on more responsibility, to earn more. So the good worker hits a ceiling. They learn everything they can learn. They do everything they can do, and then there's nothing for them. And sometimes, as a good boss, you just have to be like, okay, you know what? There's actually nothing for you here. If you want to continue growing, I suggest that you go and find another job. And that is a hard thing to do. But as a good boss, that is something that you must do. Because those workers, even though they're like A players, they're rock stars, if they want to move up, they're going to leave. So you may as well bless them as they go and help them get there, rather than holding them back and being like, no, don't go. I want you to be stuck like you are. You know, I want you to be miserable. Because it's going to bring your team down. Their attitude eventually is going to change. And they're going to bring your team down. Or you can like be like, hey, I don't have anything yet, but we're working on some things, and I would really like you to be a part of it and help create the things the next level for you. Is that cool, right? Then that's a totally different thing. Guess what? They're building with you. You know how much loyalty you get out of someone who's building with you? It's crazy. But if there isn't a path, there's no path for a raise, there's no path for a promotion, there's no path for recognition, there's no path for anything, any kind of challenge in front of them, they're going to start looking somewhere else. And you're not going to know about it, probably. Because for some reason, I don't know what it is, but when bosses know about the person is like, hey, I'm not happy here, then they're like, okay, well then just leave. And they get all butthurt. I don't know why, man. Like, don't do that. Like, be okay with your employees looking for other jobs. And just recognize that like, if you're not offering them the thing that they need to grow, the opportunity that they need to grow, they're going to look for another job. Be okay with that. Be the stepping stone. Help other people grow. Because the contractors who retain good workers are the ones who know their crew, know who wants to advance, and create a plan for that person to advance. And communicate that plan with the person. Because if that person doesn't know the plan, then they're like, man, what's going on? I just want to leave. You just have to tell them, like, okay, here's where you are. Here's where I want you to go. Here's where my expectation is for you to go. And here's the path to get there. I had a job once that they told me, they're like, yeah, we want to get you into a more of a leadership position. I'm like, great. Like, that's what I'm looking for, right? And I told them that when I got hired on. I said, I want to not just be a tech. I want a growth path. I want to know. And so they're working on stuff behind the scenes. They didn't communicate that to me. So for a year and a little bit, I was in the dark. And they just kept telling me, they just kept holding this carrot in front. I was ready to leave. I was like, man, if this isn't changing, I have to look somewhere else. Like, I'm not here to do this thing. What I was doing was a technician. And I was like, I'm not here to do a technician. I'm here to become more. And if you don't have that for me, then I have to go somewhere else. But for a year, they just kept dangling this carrot. They're like, oh yeah, we're working on it. We're working on it. We're working on it. We're working on it. I'm like, well, what are you working on? And there was nothing. There was nothing that they told me, the details. So it was very frustrating. I did stay, and I did actually get a little bit of a promotion. It didn't end up working out in the end anyways. But just sit down with your employee who wants to advance, know who wants to advance, sit down with them and make a plan with them and be like, hey, here's the path that we're thinking of, we're working on. Do you have any input, or do you have any ideas, or do you have any is this where you want to go, right? Is this acceptable? Like, do you because when that person has input, they're going to feel way more involved. They're going to be way more loyal. And if you can create that for them, then they're going to be bought into the process. And they're going to be a way better employee for you. Reason number 7, you act like they're replaceable. Because to you, they are. Oof. And this is the one that kind of ties everything together. When you treat a good employee like they're just another warm body, like they're interchangeable with any kind of warm body that walks through the door, and you tell them that. I've heard bosses tell people that. You know, it's like that, was it Rihanna's song or Beyonce? And you don't recognize their effort, you don't ask their opinion, you don't include them in decision, then you're telling them you don't matter. Anyone can do this, and the only thing that matters is the work, the machine. In fact, I had people tell me that exact same thing. They're like, "We're keeping this company moving. We don't care about you." Basically, that wasn't quite those words, but that was basically what it was. And the good worker proves you right by leaving, because they are replaceable to you, but not to themselves, and not to your competitor who's hiring them next week. To them, they're irreplaceable. They're like, "Man, I'm so happy that they thought you were replaceable. I'm going to take you on my crew. We're going to grow together. It's going to be awesome," right? Here's what flipped it for me. When I was working at an automotive shop and we were steady, we weren't like crazy busy or anything, but we were looking to grow. We were looking to hire another guy. I was not the owner or the manager or anything like that. I was just an employee. But I was just getting into this marketing stuff, learning about hiring and learning about how to produce a result like this. And so we were hiring someone, and it was the same way that everybody else hires. It was desperate. It was vague. It was one channel. It was kind of like, we'll take anyone with a pulse as long as they're certified, right? And so I decided to try something different. Oh, and by the way, we were looking Canada-wide. We were even interested in like looking at potentially bringing someone in from a different country, like international hires, right? But I was like, you know what? Before we do that, I think our guy is local. And so I started posting on Facebook and Instagram 3 times a day, every single day, except for Sundays. I think Sunday I didn't, but every other day. And I wasn't just posting like the now hiring stuff. It was like, "Hey, we're hiring," like that's okay too. I actually had a framework that I was using, and post 1 was always a job posting. So in the morning it was like, "Hey, if you're checking your feed, we are hiring." Post 2 is always something that was happening in the shop. It was like a project, a win, a fail, something we were working on. And then post 3 was always a little known fact about the industry. And what's interesting is within a few months of me doing this, we had overwhelming amount of work. Like the shop was booked out for 2 weeks in advance, and then we had a waiting list on top of that. That would probably fill up another 2 weeks. It was probably booked out like we could have been booking a month in advance. And we attracted an employee who was skilled, competent, and excited to come to work. It was great. So the lesson isn't about magic. The lesson is consistency and visibility. If people don't know about you, they can't buy from you, they can't refer to you, they can't work for you, they can't tell their friends about you. And so you have to be consistent, you have to be visible. But here's the part that I didn't appreciate until later. The same principle applies to keep good workers. They need to know that you see them. They need to know that you matter. And it's not just a pizza party at the end of every month. They need to know that there's a future at your company for them. And if you don't show them, somebody else will. So let's pull it all together. I'm going to give you a quick recap. If good workers won't work for you, the answer is not find better workers. The answer is become the kind of company that good workers choose and want to work at. So to do this, hire selectively, not desperately. Build a pipeline before you need it. Invest in the first 90 days. Onboarding can't be optional. Invest in your employees in the first 90 days. Train your promoted workers. Don't just throw someone into a job and be like, "Okay, sink or swim." That is the worst way to do things. It's a hard way because they're going to be overwhelmed. Technical skill does not equal management skill. Pay fairly and communicate it. Transparency builds trust. And by the way, publicly announcing it when someone gets a raise and showing people why they got a raise, telling your crew why this person got a raise, is a great way to tell other people, "Hey, this is how you can also get a raise. If you're looking for ways to move up, this is how you do it." And then protect your culture. One toxic crew member can sink the whole ship. It doesn't mean you should fire them instantly. It means that you should make sure that you're on top of it and monitoring it so that you can address it. And if it doesn't change, then they're out. And give them a reason to stay. Show them a growth path. Show them recognition. Show them appreciation. Be involved in their lives. What is next for them? And lastly, treat them like they matter. They do. And your competitor knows it. Now, here's where I want to be straight with you, because I can give you the framework in a video, but the problem for most contractors isn't knowing what to build. It's not even necessarily knowing how to build it. But when it comes to this tech stuff, I know that there's a lot of things that you guys are like, that many contractors I've talked to, they're just like, I don't know, like, I don't know anything about it. And so I wanted to make it simple for you. So I created the complete hiring system just for you. The complete hiring system is a done-for-you application template. It's not just a form that you have to figure out on your own, but it's a full step-by-step walkthrough showing you how to customize the complete hiring system for your business, your trade, your local market. When someone applies through the complete hiring system, you're not only collecting a resume, you're filtering for the things that actually matter. Can they show up? Can they pass your onboarding requirements? Can they do the work? Will they be a good fit for your crew? The complete hiring system turns that mountain of bad applications into a short list of pre-qualified candidates that you actually want to have an interview with. So if you're tired of sorting through resumes and having interviews with people who are never going to work out in the first place, go to the link in the description. It's www.ungovernedperformance.com/the-complete-hiring-system. And you can access it like 100% free. All you have to do is create a ClickFunnels account. That's where I host it. And that's where you'll be hosting it for your business as well. And so go in there, create an account through my affiliate link, and it's yours free for the first 14 days, and then it's only $97 a month, and you will have it in your business, and it will be working for you 24/7, 365, helping to sort and filter the perfect hire for your business. So if you got value from this video, just hit subscribe and drop a comment below telling me which of the 7 reasons is the biggest leak in your business right now. I read every comment, and your comment may inspire the next video or a video in the future, and I would love to hear from you. I'm Alex, the hiring guy, and I'll see you in the next one.